Hello everyone, I'm Ashifal Mujiza and my student number is 2413042059. In this video, I'm going to retell a short horror story titled The Monkey's Paw by W. W. Jacobs. The story is about a family who receives a magical object that can grant wishes, but with terrible consequences. So let's see how this story begins and how it slowly turns into something terrifying. So, without any further ado, let's jump right in. So, the story begins on a cold and stormy night. The White family, Mr. White, Mrs. White, and their son Herbert are inside their house, enjoying a quiet evening. Suddenly, they receive a visit from an old friend, Sergeant Major Morris, who has just returned from India. During their conversation, Morris tells them about a strange object called the monkey's paw. He explains that it has magical powers and can grant three wishes. But then he warns them seriously. He says, "Be careful, it brings bad consequences." At first, the family doesn't really believe him, but when Morris suddenly throws the paw into the fire, Mr. White quickly takes it back. He feels curious and decides to keep it. Later that night, Herbert jokingly says, "Why don't you wish for money, father?" So, Mr. White finally makes his first wish. He says, "I wish for 200 pounds." Suddenly, he feels the paws move in his hand. It scares him, but nothing else happens, so they think it's just a joke. However, the next day everything changes. A man from Herbert's workplace comes to their house. He looks nervous and uncomfortable. Then he says that Herbert has died in a terrible accident at the factory. Mrs. White is shocked, and Mr. White cannot believe it. Then the man adds that the company will give them compensation. He says, 200 pounds, sir. At that moment, Mr. White realizes that his wish has come true, but in the worst way possible. Days pass, and Mrs. White becomes overwhelmed with grief. One night, she suddenly remembers the monkey's paw. She looks at her husband and says, "We still have two wishes. Wish our son alive again." Mr. White feels terrified. He knows that Herbert's body was badly damaged, but because his wife insists, he finally gives in. With a trembling voice, he says, "I wish my son alive again." That night, the house becomes very quiet and tense. The old couple sits in silence until suddenly they hear a slow, soft knock on the front door. At first, Mr. White freezes. His heart starts beating fast. Then, Mrs. White suddenly sits up and whispers, "Did you hear that?" The knock comes again, louder this time. Her eyes widen, and she cries, "It's Herbert! He is back!" She quickly gets out of bed and runs toward the door. But Mr. White grabs her arm and says nervously, "Don't open it! Please don't open it!" Mrs. White struggles to break free and shouts, "It's my son! Let me go!" She runs downstairs while the knocking becomes more and more urgent. Louder, faster, almost desperate. Mrs. White reaches the door and tries to open it, but her hands are shaking. The bolt, she cries. I can't reach it. Meanwhile, Mr. White is trembling. He falls into the floor, desperately searching for the monkey's paw. He is terrified, imagining what Herbert might look like after being dead for days, broken, unnatural. The knocking now turns into loud banging. Mrs. White pushes a chair toward the door, trying to unlock it. She says, I'm coming, Herbert. She screams desperately. At the same moment, Mr. White finally finds the monkey's paw. In panic, he quickly makes his last wish. Suddenly, the knocking stops. Everything becomes completely silent. Mrs. White slowly opens the door. A cold wind blows inside, but there is no one there. Only darkness and an empty road. She cries desperately. And yeah, that's how the story ends. Pretty sad and also quite terrifying, right? The story reminds us not to underestimate what people say, especially when they try to warn us. It also teaches us to think carefully before making decisions, because sometimes one mistake can lead to something worse, especially when we repeat it. And okay, everyone, that's all from my retelling of this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.